Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating text about metaphysical warfare. And when we say metaphysics, what we're talking about are the hidden rules of a conflict, one that's not fought with fists, but with sheer will. This is a world where the soul itself is a weapon, and your mind, well, your mind is the battlefield.
So let's just start with a pretty provocative question. What if your mind wasn't really a private space, just for your own thoughts? What if it was actually territory, a place that could be invaded and fought over?
So, here's how we're going to break this all down. We're going to start with the invisible force of the soul, then look at how the mind can literally become a battlefield, cover some techniques for mental defense, and finally, we're going to scale this whole idea up to the soul of an entire nation.
Okay, first up, let's get into this core idea that the soul isn't just some abstract thing. No, it's a source of real, tangible, and you could even say palpable power. The source calls this spiritual pressure, but you and I might know it by a more common name, an aura. It's described as this powerful, sometimes even oppressive force that just radiates out from the soul. You know that feeling when your body just instinctively reacts to danger? Maybe you get chills, or you start to tremble, even before your conscious mind has figured out what the threat is? Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
But here's a really powerful distinction the text makes. While your physical body might be freaking out, the soul, especially a soul that's been strengthened by virtue, is incredibly resilient. And by virtue, we mean things like fortitude, a clear sense of self, all the things that make a soul tough and resistant to outside pressure. It can withstand a kind of spiritual force that the body just can't handle.
So if the soul can project this kind of force, where does it go? Well, this brings us right to the core of metaphysical combat, the idea of the mind as a territory that can be won or lost.
The source has a pretty intense name for this: mind domination. Now, this isn't about mind control like you see in the movies. It's more like a strategic battle. It's a competition where different consciousnesses are literally fighting for psychic real estate inside of a single mind.
And this slide just lays out the dynamics of this psychic tug-of-war perfectly. On one side, you've got fortitude and wisdom. These are your tools for expanding your mental ground, for planting your flag and holding your territory. And on the other side, fear and hesitation. These are the vulnerabilities that make you retreat, that make you give up that very same ground.
So what happens when these forces actually clash? Well, if two souls are pretty much evenly matched, they just push each other away, like two positive ends of a magnet. But if one soul is way more dominant, something really fascinating happens. The weaker one doesn't just lose territory, it actually starts to lose its own individuality, slowly beginning to look and feel more like the stronger presence.
Okay, so if your mind can be invaded and your psychic space is literally up for grabs, the next obvious question is, how in the world do you defend it?
The source material gives us three main defensive tactics. First, you can try setting up mental barriers, but that's kind of seen as a passive and, honestly, less effective strategy. Second, you could get morale support from an ally, but of course, that leaves you totally vulnerable in a one-on-one fight. Which brings us to the third, and by far, the most effective method.
And this really gets to the core principle here. Mental defense isn't about hiding or building walls. The absolute best protection is a powerful offense. It's about projecting your own spiritual pressure with so much force that you completely flush out the invader. You push them right out of your space.
All right, now let's zoom out, way out. We're going to take this amazing concept of individual mental combat and apply it to the largest scale you can possibly imagine, the soul of a nation. This quote right here, this is the key. It suggests that, historically, the most powerful nations didn't just stop wars with their armies. They relied on something else, something called presence. And the text described this presence as nothing less than the soul of the nation. So how does a nation build up this kind of soul, this overwhelming presence? Well, according to the source, it's all about a history of proven power. Winning wars for sure, having massive economic might, building a reputation so strong that even its symbols, like a coat of arms, inspire awe or even fear. And crucially, it's about being reliable. It's about honoring your promises and being known for following through on your threats.
And this brings us right back around, full circle, drawing a perfect parallel between the giant and the small. Just like a powerful nation can stop a war before it starts just with its reputation and presence, a person with a strong, resilient, virtuous soul can shut down personal conflicts just by the force of their presence. It's like having this sheer, unshakable confidence that de-escalates a fight before it even begins.
And this leaves us with one last big idea to think about. If we accept this framework, that people and even whole countries project a kind of spiritual pressure or soul, then what defines the soul of your nation today? What kind of presence does it project out there on the world stage? It's a pretty fascinating way to look at the world, isn't it?